Thank you for accommodating this request. I would like to welcome my panelists, Bob, Helen, and Oscar. We are talking amongst ourselves. We don't need a mic here. So please take your seat and yeah. Yeah, please take a seat. So, would like to welcome my panelists at least to this session, and we will have some fun, learn from each other. The session is mainstreaming energy efficiency as the first fuel, a dialogue, and I'm delighted to be your host today. And Helen, I'm going to give some opening remarks, and then I will direct some questions, and I would like to hear your thoughts. I think in some of the things that you do as part of Train, as part of like your Metro Synergy, and of course Bhaskar as Adani Cooling. One of the things that I would like to highlight here is that while the topic is energy efficiency as a first fuel, and also in the context of like doubling the, I think, the rate of energy efficiency agenda, but something that I have found, because we work closely with the International Energy Agency and SE for All, that some of these larger framing of issues means different things to different people. And we get a lot of questions that what does doubling the rate of energy efficiency really means? And can you actually unpack this a little bit? I think in terms of, are we going to do this at international level, national level, company level? I think, and I'll just give one example. So one aspect is that at a country level, we can look at that what is the million tons of oil equivalent per GDP that it is producing. And if that's trending downwards, then we can say that, okay, see. Now to further sort of unpack those two things is where I think things get tricky. And we would try to actually have some discussions where we would try to focus on the energy efficiency element and how that actually helps countries' economy to become more energy efficient. So I think that's the larger context, I think, in which I think I would like to have this discussion. And maybe, Helen, I'll start with you. You have, I think, as uh, the train go-to person for all the policy and all the standards and international framework. You have a very good view of, I think, what the international commitments different countries are making, how it impacts your company, what are the standards framework that affects business, and especially in the context of, I think, combining energy efficiency with refrigerant transition. Would you be able to shed some light, I think, how I think this thing is moving forward and what its relevance, I think, in making sure that energy efficiency continues to be a first fuel? So over to you, Helen.
All right, so first of all, thank you so much for having me, Satish. This is my favorite name of any panel that I've seen so far this week, because energy efficiency is the first fuel, right? It's the lowest cost thing that we can do, right? In many cases, it is helpful not only for your own cost and affordability as a building owner or as a homeowner. But also, if we think about the investment being made in the grid right now for overarching energy use and growth, this is such an important topic. So thank you so much for that. So relevant. So from a policy perspective, we are seeing, in the Montreal Protocol, in the Kigali Amendment, which phases down hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs, there is an element that energy must be maintained or improved. And so there are some funding windows and funding opportunities through for small non-multinational companies, if companies add it to their Kigali implementation plan, for some funding for companies to help them with energy efficiency. So compressor design and equipment design and kind of advancing some there. We also see some excellent work with folks like CLASP and other organizations assisting countries to take up minimum energy performance standards. Hugely important, of course, for equipment, and also from a buildings perspective, we see standards like ASHRAE 90.1 and other building performance standards, even for data centers, ASHRAE 90.4, and actions there to improve energy, reduce energy usage. So a lot of things happening there, and a lot of that's being coordinated, as you said, with refrigerant transitions. And I think that makes it a little bit easier and lower cost when companies do that.
Okay, thanks a lot, Helen, for that opening remarks. And I think just explaining the context of, I think, all the global policies that are, I think, at play, and the standards and the role that I think institutions like CLASP play. So I think thank you very much. I'll come back to you. I'll go to Bob. Bob, you have, I think, in the US pioneered energy as a service as a business model. And from your vantage point, when you look at the policies and the standards and how can they actually help your business, I think in doubling down and in actually contributing from your side energy efficiency as a first fuel or doubling the rate of energy efficiency. What is sort of like the balance that you see, and what is your ask from, say, policymakers or standard setting bodies that would help your business?
Yeah, no, thanks. So maybe I'll tackle that in three ways. First, energy as a service, just give a brief description there. So energy as a service involves the 100% upfront cost financing for projects where Metris and other energy as a service providers finance and own energy upgrades and then bill customers based on the performance of those projects. And so that can be energy savings for traditional energy efficiency projects. If we're looking at sustainable cooling and heating projects, it can be billing based on avoided thermal energy capacity or delivery, and can even get into billing customers or guaranteeing performance based on other key metrics like indoor air quality and temperature, and making sure that our projects are hitting those type of outcomes that are critical for customers. So in terms of the doubling of energy efficiency goal and policy, how I really view it is at the project level. And what I love about the doubling of energy efficiency goal is that it sets a clear target and has a clear time frame to accomplish that target, but it's not prescriptive in terms of how you get there. So at the project level, that can mean utilizing the full suite of energy efficiency technologies, equipment, and solutions that are right for business and getting there. And at Metris, that's how we approach projects. We often like to bundle different energy upgrades together to get to the right solution for a customer. So I see the doubling of efficiency goal in lockstep with how we approach our business. And to the types of policies we like to see, we obviously want governments to provide clear and consistent policies that help set a long-term investment framework that allows companies, our customers, to make investment decisions and allows us to really determine where best to deploy capital.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up question. What's the environment like in the US currently, and what kind of, I think, responses or inquiries that you are receiving, I think, in terms of expanding your business so that I think you can contribute towards doubling the rate of energy efficiency?
Yeah, it's a good question and an important question, and I think it's important to recognize that the United States is really a broad coalition of different actors. You certainly have the federal government and the current administration. You also have a robust private sector that involves equipment manufacturers, suppliers, solution implementers, financiers, and Trane covers a lot of that. But a lot of businesses are very committed to the energy transition, and a good example of that is that coming into this COP, over 180 U.S. businesses signed a support letter specifically calling out the need to pursue on a continued basis the doubling of energy efficiency that was agreed to at COP28. So the U.S. businesses that signed on to that letter have committed to continue to deploy the technology projects and solutions that at the project level will help get to that doubling goal. And they also call on governments to continue to set the right policies and programs that will support energy efficiency investments going forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob.
Yeah, and maybe just one last point at the project level, we're seeing a lot of continued business and activity despite some of the policy changes in the U.S. At cities and states, there's very robust activity. And the businesses, schools, and hospitals that need to implement projects also see the broader benefits of energy efficiency that go beyond energy savings, that get to resiliency and replacing critical equipment and improving their overall operational and business performance.
No, great, and I think it just highlights the point that in order to achieve, I think this doubling, it takes all kinds to do that, from policy and standards, international commitments, to I think the businesses like your Metris Energy. I will move to Bhaskar, and I think the context is very well set for you, Bhaskar, because Bhaskar leads a company called Adani Cooling, and Helen talked about the role of standards, and I think how compressors are becoming more efficient, the role of refrigerant. Bob talked about energy as a service business model, and I know that your company pushes cooling as a service. So I think the floor is all yours, and what you can talk about, I think, in terms of what experiences you are having, I think, in India, as I think you are trying to upscale your business very, very rapidly.
So, thank you. Just to take a cue from what you started off with, that this unpicking the myth of this doubling of energy efficiency. So, as Helen and Bob has said, that to our understanding as well, the energy efficiency doubling is all about using new technologies, new alternatives of the conventional usage, and using innovations to improve the efficiency of the equipment, so that the ultimate objective is they consume half the energy which is being consumed today. So if you can reduce the energy consumption by half, we can say that we are working toward doubling the energy efficiency. That is the equation which we have taken up for ourselves. And in this direction, let me first start with the scenario which is there in India. In India, as per the cooling action plan, we have about 8% penetration of air conditioning in India, which is very low compared to the person cooling days, which are highest in India compared to the all the countries because of its temperature across the country, the population. And this a penetration is going to grow up by 11 times in the next decade. So there is a huge demand of air conditioning which is going to grow. And as we all agree that if we consider a commercial establishment, almost 70% of the total energy consumed is towards air conditioning. Even in a residential, almost 60% is consumed by air conditioning and heating. So there is a need for addressing this. And if we consider the air conditioning load requirement alone in the next decade, this load requirement is going to grow by 120 gigawatt in up to 2030, in the next 5 years. So there is a need for reducing it to half, because this will pose a tremendous pressure on the generation, on the transmission lines, and on the distribution equipment. So we have taken up this vision of establishing large centralized cooling systems. And what we have faced is that when we have started, we found that the country has not been very much clear about the policies, about the support systems. The developers are not having any support, any financial recognition of this fact. So we have worked with the ministries, and we are trying to include that as a mandate in the business, in the building codes, as it is in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Singapore, that the building codes must mandate that large centralized district cooling systems which are based on water be used, because this has threefold effect. One is that it reduces these equipment are having almost double the energy efficiency as compared to the conventional air conditioning. Conventional air conditioning has uses 1.1 kilowatt to generate 1 tonnage of cooling, whereas this chiller systems consume 0.8 kilowatt to generate 1 tonnage of cooling. So that is almost half, or 40%. Plus the second usage, or second benefit, is that you need a much lesser capacity of centralized cooling compared to the conventional cooling. So that again reduces the quantum of the peak demand which is required to be consumed. Or we use the wastewater of the residential, which is almost wasted, and it is thrown into the atmosphere, into the environment. So we consume that wastewater, and through evaporation it is cleaned, and the clean evaporated water is emitted into the atmosphere. And the fourth and most important is that we have a lot of discussions across the world on the refrigerant. So refrigerant, the usage, the quantum of refrigerant used here is reduced by 90%. So if this consume 10% of refrigerants which are circulating in the buildings in the conventional air conditioners, and also these refrigerants can be then, through a very carefully controlled environment, we can use natural refrigerants or better refrigerants which are less harming to the climate. So it has a fourfold effect. Although this is not very much known and very much appreciated across the world. However, we are trying to put in place that sort of a initiative, which definitely will contribute a lot in doubling the efficiency, energy efficiency.
Okay. Thank you, Bhaskar. I have just one quick follow-up question. District cooling, there are proponents and there are detractors as well. And so in your business, I think when you are sort of making the case for district cooling, what kind of reception you are getting? You highlighted, I think, the 3 or 4, I think, the benefits that district cooling can deliver. And what are the typical sort of like customers? Is there some thresholds? Is there some geographical location? Is there some mixed use kind of facilities? I think, how do you make a call in terms of whether this is a good project for district cooling or not?
Yeah. So this is a very important question, because the first and the foremost problem which we have faced is when we are going for a district cooling proposal to any large developer who is developing a township. The first pushback comes is that these are high on cost, but the cost is a one-time cost which if you look at the life cycle cost of the energy saving, of the reduction in the capacity of the cooling as well as the electricity capacity required to supply. So it has a multifold effect of reducing the capital cost in the cooling infrastructure as well as in the electrical infrastructure. Then because its maintenance is very, very low, it gives a lifetime saving through the maintenance cost, and its consumption, I said, is very low because its efficiency is very high. So it consumes less amount of electricity, so you have to bear less amount of cost of the electricity. So if you look at the payback, okay, the initial cost which you are bearing, the payback is hardly 2 to 3 years only. So these 2 to 3 years you are getting the refund of what you have paid or you consumed additionally, and then you continue to bear the benefits throughout the longer period. Now, I would like to also highlight the cooling as a service, what you started off with. The cooling as a service, why we have got into this is that because the developers many times are doing this by initially calling a design consultant, getting the design done, then he says thank you very much, then he calls upon a execution consultant, gets the execution done, and then he calls upon a O&M consultant to do the O&M. Now all three fight with each other and blame each other. That's why we have started off with the cooling as a service, where end to end we give the designing, we do the financing, we do the project execution, and we do the O&M for 25 years. So we take the entire headache out of the developers, and that is a very positive thing which the developers have come up with. Now, the second most important 2-3 things which you mentioned, one is the availability of the land for setting up, large cooling stations. So we are working with the ministries to make it a policy that wherever new townships will be planned, as a part of utility infrastructure, district cooling has to be thought of when they're planning a large township. When they're building roads, they have to consider the pipelines to be laid under the roads prior hand before even constructing the roads. So if this sort of a prior policy framework is there, which we are very happy that this has been taken very positively, and most probably within few months it will come up. So that will be the most important enabler. And the next is the tariff. The tariff, which is the input tariff to the district cooling plant, has to be low, because then only I'll be able to make it viable compared to the electricity a general consumer consumes. So in that respect, we have taken up with the regulatory commissions, and first time in India, the district cooling has been considered as an industrial activity, and the industrial tariff, which is the lowest, has been assigned to it, and that also will be a big support in terms of making it happen. So these are few of the things which challenges and we are trying to address. And there are many more to come, so let's see.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think for a very comprehensive, I think, a view of like how district cooling is playing out in India and what kind of a role Adani Cooling is doing. Maybe I'll come back to you, Helen. And I think we talked about some of the things, roles of standards, refrigerants, and other things. I want to get to the point that how do you, I think Bob touched upon this thing a little bit, and Bhaskar as well, that how do you track the contribution that Trane as a company is making, or how efficient I think you are becoming, say like every year or every 3 years or 5 years, and in your large portfolio of products that you are selling or services that you are providing. So I would just like to probably get a little more idea. I am interested, I think, in these nerdy things a little bit. But if you have a little bit of, I think insights to share that from your the vision and like how you are going to achieve your net zero goal, and if you start to convert this doubling the rate of energy efficiency, how do these kind of two things start to align from a company perspective?
Before I answer that question, I want to give some more credit here. You know, we talked, I think you said 130 million gigawatts?
Yeah.
Okay, so India will need another 130 gigawatts
Right.
of energy over the next
Cooling, yeah.
5 years,
yeah.
5 years,
Right.
right? If we double energy efficiency, that's half, so
Right,
65,
right,
And
right.
so, like, the goodness of energy efficiency and the benefit of that also comes in the form of reduced investment in the grid. And I think, like, sometimes we don't give credit to the financials for that, and that may be something that we need to think through. How do the utilities give credit for those financials to folks that are driving those energy efficiency levels? So sorry.
Thank
so
you.
I,
No,
I
thank
just,
you for
I
making
just
that
had
point.
to
Yeah,
like,
very
jump
good.
in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm obsessed with
Yeah.
it. So okay. So at Train Technologies, we have a couple of different goals. We have a 1.5-degree aligned goal for 2030. We have a gigaton of reduction of emissions from the customer's use of our products by 2030, and then we also have our net zero goal. And the gigaton one is especially interesting for this conversation because almost 94% of the emissions that we see are scope 3. If you know what scope 3 is, and I don't mean suppliers, I mean the customer's use of our products. It's almost 94%. So it's tremendously linked to energy and some to refrigerants. So certainly we have transitioned refrigerants in much of our broad portfolio of equipment. I'll talk about that for 1 minute. We use almost every refrigerant that there is, and we design equipment for even the refrigerants we don't use in our equipment. We have a very broad portfolio of products down to minus 90 degrees. Think about pharmaceutical processing, shipping peroxides, shipping vaccines, all the way up to, industrial heating and so forth. So kind of everything in between. So there is a very broad array of products. So, there's a couple of different levers that we can pull with our customers to kind of reduce our greenhouse gas input and achieve our gigaton goal, right? One of them is encouraging customers to buy more efficient equipment, right? And working with customers to do that. The other way is partnering with them around renewables, and then certainly, and so we look at all of those things when we are trying to kind of march toward achieving our goals, right? And so we try to support policies that help with that, as well as one of the things, Bob, that in the U.S. you kind of talked about was there are still people that want more efficient equipment, right? It saves money, right? The lowest cost electron I can find is the one I don't use, and the fastest electron I can find is the one that my neighbor doesn't use, right? If I want to put something else in my house, right? So I think we have customers that want this. And, if we can overcome the hurdle of the first financing, which Bob will talk some more about, that will drive these savings, and these savings which are good not only for me, right, if I make this choice, but also, from this grid investment perspective, which again, we need to engage with utilities to kind of help to share the benefits of that across the person making that investment.
Okay. Great, and I loved your analogy of the lowest and the fastest. I used to I use this phrase like energy efficiency is the cheapest, cleanest, and fastest resource to address climate change. But I think this lowest and fastest, I think, is also very, very good. So thanks for giving us that picture, Helen, on how a large company like Train is using its product portfolio, and I think its access to some companies to drive, I think, some of those things. So,
And maybe just
Yeah.
if you really do want the nerdy answer,
Right.
we have been reporting our emissions for over 6 years in our sustainability reports.
Right.
We have a spreadsheet there that has all that data there. We have an explainer guide that we've shared, with the Carbon Trust and others. It's on our website, to
Okay.
kind of get in the nerdy details.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Bob, coming to you, I want you are into the business of providing energy as a service. And I just want to focus a little bit on the energy data, which is sort of like the building block for, or like the starting point for anything that you may want to do when you want to take it to your customer. So I think in two aspects to this. One is that what role do you see energy data and energy benchmarks playing, I think, with respect to the business that you are running. And then the second is that there are also some discussions about energy data being shared across countries I think in terms of understanding, I think who is the most efficient when it comes to data center energy efficiency, or who is I think the most energy efficient when it comes to residential, I think energy impacts, that kind of a thing. So can you please share, I think, your thoughts both from your more immediate need as well as I think how do you see some of these cross-cutting country level data sharing that can also help?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it does cut across a lot of different levels. Maybe taking it first from our own individual project level, it's the foundation of the projects that we do. For every project, there is really two forms of energy assessments that go on. There's an initial preliminary energy assessment that gives the first shape and size of a project opportunity, and we sit down with customers and our implementation partners and talk through what's possible, what types of upgrades they're looking at, different options for project size and scale and scope. All of that is based on the energy benchmarking data that goes on. It shows the efficiency of the existing equipment, and then that, of course, gets compared to the new equipment that gets installed. So it's really the foundation of the projects that we do, and it's also how we communicate with customers once projects are operational. Because in a very simple sense, that before a project is implemented and after is what the basis of a billing is, that we do for energy as a service. So it's measuring the avoided kilowatt hours of electricity, measuring the avoided therms of natural gas. If it's a sustainable cooling and heating project, it's measuring the BTUs that we're delivering. And then there's even an underlying level of benchmarking and data that for, say, a chilled water project is measuring the temperature of the water that we're providing, the temperature of the heat that we're providing. So all of that is an ongoing basis and a way to communicate with customers, both on the original projects that we develop, but also on the future projects that we can implement with them, because buildings are dynamic and always in need of change and added upgrades. In terms of the sharing of the data, there's a couple points there. Helen mentioned Trane's impact report. Metris has been doing one for 5 years. So we have data that is public and on our website on the performance of our portfolio of projects. And so we like to share that. But I also think there's a bit of a catalyst element to data sharing, and it can be within the US, but also internationally, where, you know, we love to have competitive forces where a school will see what another school did and then want to replicate that. And in the US, at the city level in New York, there's a great disclosure program where if you're walking by a building in New York City, there's a grade on the building door of A, B, and there's a lot of C's and D's out there. And that type of just making it visible to the occupants of buildings and trying to bring things that maybe are a challenge in energy efficiency, where one of its difficulties is that it's not always tangible. Making it more tangible is something that's important, and data is the bedrock of that.
Yeah, and I think on that data disclosure element, we know that Australia has neighbors, Europe has the same EBCDE. I think it need to put mandatorily, and whenever there is a transaction happening on housing, then I think they need to look at that, what is the energy consumption there. So I am a big believer, I think, in this energy data disclosure, and we are sort of like trying to make a recommendation in India that above a certain threshold, I think this data disclosure requirement can become mandatory. Just a quick follow-up. You talked about benchmarking, and you also talked about, I think, energy saving. Do you use like Energy Star Portfolio Manager kind of, I think, information that is publicly available? Or I think when you are trying to document or quantify the energy saving, do you use IPMVP, like International Performance Measurement and Verification Protocol, which is a global international standard to quantify savings?
Yeah, first on the Energy Star program, that's a fantastic program. It is something that is taking some funding hits, which is a shame.
Yeah.
For our specific business, a lot of that focuses on commercial office buildings, which is not a core focus for Metris. So in terms of our business, we're not using that as much, but the benchmarking of data and performance we put into case studies and try to have that reported out as much as possible.
Okay, all right. Bhaskar, coming to you, I want to tackle one particular issue that whenever you are running a business, you need skilled people. And I think all over the world, I think there is a dearth of skilled people. I think you can join companies like yours or Metros or Train. And I know that I think in India there are a lot of capacity building programs that are there. Because if we don't have, I think, the skilled people, then this whole energy efficiency doubling and I think as a first fuel becomes a challenge. So I think what kind of programs that you are doing to actually train your people and provide them with the right certification, and what are you finding when you are going out in the market and trying to hire people? Are you able to actually get, I think, the people at all, engineers and facility operators and chiller operators? So what is your sense, and is it a stumbling block, or do you see, I think, that India has a large capacity of these skilled people?
Actually, you have touched upon a very important point, and this is a great problem for us because first of all, this entire concept of centralized cooling in a large scale was not that much prevalent, on that much there were no markets for it, there were no pull factor for it. So the skilled laborers in terms of mainly the engineering design, the project execution and operations were not there to that extent, and that's a very big challenge which we are struggling with. Now I'll take it one by one. For the energy, for the engineering design part of it, what we are doing is that we have identified and screened a set of expert energy engineering consultants from mainly from UAE and other places who have the experience of designing similar the large stations in India. We have also lined up a number of Indian energy consultants as partners, and we are having a experience sharing workshop between these two, and we are using this as a consultant and peer review consultant sort of a thing, so that whatever they are learning and they are implementing, they are again coming and checking and then seeing that whether it is meeting the standards or so. So that is something which we have taken care as far as the energy, as per the engineering consultant part is concerned. Now, as far as the project execution, that is another issue. So we have identified set of young graduate engineers, and we have identified a specialized course for them. We are training them, and we are only taking graduate engineers, not experts from the field. We are taking graduate engineers, and we are training them. We are also hiring few people from UAE and other places who can help them to get trained. That is how we are meeting this skilled labor part of it. Now, as far as the capacity requirement of equipment is concerned, that is the next challenge which we are facing, and where I was discussing with Helen yesterday that we are actually struggling to get higher size chillers and pumps in India, and these are all manufactured either in China or other places. So it's a huge, long drawn process to get them shipped, and to get it takes 4 to 5 months to get the chillers on board. So we are requesting everyone that can we set up their plants and their large chiller units, and already this is being supported by some of the manufacturers, because it's also natural that they had not seen that much of potential earlier. Because when we started 1.5 years back, we had the visibility of hardly 7,000 to 10,000 tons of capacity only. Today we have a visibility of 4 lakh tons, 4 lakh tons capacity. So that is giving the confidence to all the manufacturers as well, and they are setting up plants which are capable of manufacturing higher size chillers, pumps, and also sophisticated and also higher technology equipment in India. So that, I think, is a very positive development which is happening. That, along with the skill development, will make it stabilized in the years to come.
Thank you. And just for Bob and Helen, Bhaskar mentioned 4 lakh tons, so that's 400,000 tons. That's the visibility that I think the Adani Cooling has. So I think you mentioned that sometimes it's a chicken and egg situation, because I think unless the demand comes, the companies will not set up these plants. But I think with the kind of, I think, mega projects and district cooling, I think that's likely to take. Bob, you want to say something? Yeah.
Just this is just a big tip of the iceberg,
Right.
as per my understanding, and the potential is huge because India is developing tremendously in the industrial zones, in the commercial townships, and also data centers, which need a lot of specialized cooling. So there is a tremendous potential of need in terms of the cooling capacity in India. Earlier, there was no channel to actually ensure that the equipment are manufactured and consumed. But that with us, we can give that confidence, and I think it's a great potential for all.
Great. Great. Bob, you want to say something? Okay. So we have like a few minutes remaining. I just want to see if anyone from the audience has any questions before I come back and sort of like give our speakers, I think, an opportunity for closing remarks. So any questions from the audience?